And the homework would have been that if you wake up this morning, and of course we would have laughed because we assume we will wake up this morning, if we wake up in the morning, we should notice, oh my God, I can't believe it, I'm still alive. My petrol tank and morality hasn't run out yet. How amazing. I must not waste this precious day. But we probably didn't do that. Why? Because we assume we're permanent. So we'll talk about this morning. So let's see now, how amazing. I'm not dead yet. It always sounds so funny to us, you know. So I'm still alive, which means from the Buddhist perspective, as we talked very briefly yesterday, we've still got lots of virtues, karma, like, you know, in our gas tank. It's a way of saying it. From morality, karma, goodness, virtue, non-harming, non-killing, non-sin. This is the energy that causes life to continue. I mean, such an abstract idea to us if we compare with our views, you know. So we think we're on our way to today. Make the most of it. Listen to these ideas, Buddha's views. So okay, not too loud. That's reverberating. No. It's right. Okay. Yeah. Well, speak away. Okay. So we're going to make the most of this. Listen to these ideas, Buddha's views about happiness, suffering, past, future, reality, how things exist. This entire worldview. There might be many ideas that we find appealing, there might not be, that's our call, you know, keep an open mind. And then the point is to be practical about it. To see if there's any practical, try to find a practical implication of these ideas. That's the attitude. You know? Something useful we can put into our lives. What for? To help us develop our amazing potential, to be less neurotic, less fearful, less jealous, less depressed, more courageous, more wise, more compassionate. These things. In other words, for our sake and the sake of others. Sangye charam choke chonam rajang shubharudragni kyapsuchi Tagi chanyen gipe sonam ki Drora penche sangye drupasho Sangye charam choke chonam rajang shubharudragni kyapsuchi Tagi chanyen gipe sonam ki Drora penche sangye drupasho Sangye charam choke chogram la Janchu barudagni kyapsuchi Tagi chanyen gipe sonam ki Drora penche sangye drupasho. So remember from yesterday, this week, what we're doing here is looking at the big picture, Buddha's kind of the world, Buddha's worldview, which is what it is, you know. It's a whole way of seeing the universe, a whole way of understanding who we are, what is it, what are we, what is the mind, why do we suffer, why are we happy, what is our potential, what's all this stuff about. It's Buddha's view about that, you know. And clearly we can see already some very different, radically different views. If we compare, for example, with the Christian teachings, many similar but many different, and certainly if we compare with the materialist viewpoints, you know, the ones that mostly in this world run the show, you know. So like we've been saying, Buddha's deal is that we're called a mind possessor. In English we use that, usually we translate that Tibetan word mind possessor, sentient, as sentient being. In fact, I like the word mind possessor, it's very tasty. We're all mind possessors. So like we've been saying, mind for the Buddha is a very different use in the way we use it in our world. It's referring, the word consciousness is already used, sort of virtually synonymous with the word mind, and it's used in a much more subjective, kind of personal way in Buddhist view. Consciousness or mind is not physical. You're not the handiwork. There's not one atom of your mind that comes from a creator or your parents, which are the usual views in the world. If you're religious, God made you. If you're materialist, money made you. Not the Buddha. Which doesn't mean they don't play a role. Which doesn't mean they don't give you a body. They surely gave you a body. They surely give you, yes, genes, DNA, but this is not the total story for the Buddha. Consciousness is not physical, he says. So it takes a while to hear that and to put it together with the other view because we have so many assumptions, so it takes a while to think that through, to give it some thought. But the clear implication of this idea that your mind doesn't come from your mummy and daddy, which means you're not their fault, okay? It's the basic way to put it. It's not their fault. And of course we don't want to blame God, unless you're Italian. I hear the Italians are the worst. Then an Argentinian I met said the Italians are he says we're even worse than the Italians. I don't know about everybody else, but I know that I was a Catholic, we never did blame God. We never said one bad word about God, So we love to blame mummy and daddy, and that fits with our science. But not for the good. He says, he says we come into this world at the first second of conception in our mummy's egg and sperm, fully programmed with all our trillions of tendencies and karmic imprints, as they call them, from all our past in this river of mental moments, which is called our consciousness, which didn't begin in the womb, it's going back and back and back and back and back. Well, it's not a difficult concept to take on board. It's just that it's not like what we think. So we have to have an open mind to consider this as a possibility. And then this law of karma, which is a simple law of cause and effect, which we understand. Science is the law of cause and effect. Botany is cause and effect. Everything we do is cause and effect. We know if you put this and this and this together, you'll get that. And once you've got that law down, you'll get that every time. That's what laws are. Laws are coherent. Laws are consistent. Well, Buddha says karma is a natural law. He didn't make it up. He's not a creator. And it's the law that determines. It's a law that plays out in minds, in lives. And it's the law that for the Buddha determines happiness and suffering, fundamentally. We just mentioned it briefly yesterday. So if these are the fundamentals really in Buddhism, this law of karma, the Buddha would say is a natural law. Hear that, it's not his law. He didn't invent it. He's observed it. It happens, he says, whether you like it or not. And the mind, because what karma plays out in the mind. In fact, every really second of what our mind does is what determines what occurs in the future in our mind. Like we said yesterday, the analogy they use a lot is the analogy of seeds and fruits. So you could say that every millisecond of what any sentient being is experiencing, the ant, the dog, the human and other creatures, other beings that Buddha would assert that exist, that we can't see with our eyes, very suffering beings, very blissful beings, but disembodied ones, more subtle kinds of physical energy. Trillions of sentient beings, in a sense. Every millisecond of what they're experiencing is necessarily the fruit of seeds they planted in their mind. And how we plant seeds in our mind is starting with thought, starting with the mind, starting with intention. So I think I'll give an example of how we create karma. In other words, what it is that determines whether an action we do that's called negative or positive. What it is that determines that. It's not set in stone. It's not up to God or mummy or the judge or the police, we have to determine it in itself. And what it's saying is a natural law. So if it's a natural law, like if botany is a natural law and you want a decent garden, you better learn botany. So if karma is a natural law, and this law determines happiness and suffering, and hey, guess what, I want happiness and don't want suffering, I better learn about this law. That's the logic. And then attempt to apply it. So we mostly talked about the mind yesterday, and then we touched on karma briefly. So like I mentioned in the past several times, there's this nice analogy, a bird needs two wings, wisdom and compassion. Well, the wisdom sounds a bit abstract to us. Wisdom, what's that mean, But that's what we've been talking about so far. So that's the work you do on yourself. And the meaning of it is this. Right now, as we've been talking, caught up in our own neuroses, you look at the model of the mind in Buddhism, the three categories of the states of mind. The first category are the ones that are the neuroses, the delusions, the disturbing emotions, the unhappy emotions, the afflictions, all these terms we will see in Buddhist literature, referring to the stuff that we take totally for granted and think are completely normal parts of the human, and indeed they are normal, we've all got them, but which Buddha would say we don't need to have, and we can get rid of. And they're in the nature of suffering, they're in the nature of fear, they're disturbing, and they're liars. We discussed that at the end of the day, especially yesterday. In other words, all these negative states of mind. Then we have the positive states of mind. And they're the ones that cause us happiness. They're the ones that are at the core of our being, that do define us, and which we can grow limitlessly. So the wisdom is the one of sorting out your own mind, sorting out your own mess, learning to, first control your body and speech. This is crucial. First, behave nicely. Control your body, control your speech, which means what? Don't kill, lie, steal, jump on the wrong partner, steal somebody else's, don't badmouth people, don't talk bags into behind backs, don't say harsh words. All these things that we kind of know vaguely are good behaviour, good morality, good ethics, But the crucial point here, the really crucial one, is to ask yourself, why should I not kill? Who says? What's the reason? It's not enough to say, well, it's kind of nice. You've got to be very logical about it. If you're a very devoted Christian, you're not killing and not stealing and not lying because God said so. That's your reason. This is a huge point. But for the Buddha, he defines a negative action as one that harms another. Jesus would define a negative action as one that says God said you shouldn't do. It's a massive difference. And the implication is huge. It's the same in our mummy's household. When we're a little girl and we do what mummy says that she says we should, and then we want to be rewarded. And if we do what she says we shouldn't, we're never going to get punished. So that's the mode we all live by, punishment and reward, good and bad. It's very heavy moralistic view, Which is why we want to always seek to be a good girl, and we want to hide being a naughty girl. So it's very dualistic. The Buddha's view says it's much more fundamental than that. If you do a bit of market research in this room, in 3 seconds you'll discover no one likes to get killed, lied to, stolen from, badmouthed, jumped upon. Well, that's logical deduction. That's the meaning of a negative action. It's one that harms another. It's logical. It's obvious. Ants and dogs and monkeys are the same. No one likes to be harmed, and everybody likes to have nice things happen. That's a simple statement. So the logic is there. Therefore, for the Buddha, a negative action is one that harms another. And he says that's a natural law. Nothing to do with the fact that he says it. There's a big difference in this. But the interesting point is right at the beginning of practice, at the beginning of the wisdom week. We didn't discuss this much yesterday, but let's do it now. Okay, there's another way of packaging all these teachings, certainly in the Tibetan tradition. There's like a structure of all the teachings, and they're all, in this structure, they're taught according to the capacity of the practitioner. Well, anything we learn is like that, isn't it? You learn music, you learn the simple stuff first, and then the more advanced and the most advanced. It's a gradual process, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and then you graduate. Well, they call it in Tibetan a gradual path. We call it a course. We understand the meaning. So actually, junior school level of practice. Wisdom week is junior school and high school. The compassion week is university. Then there's the most advanced, which is like postgraduate. That's Tantra or Vajrayana, the most advanced level of teachings, the most sophisticated level of Buddhist philosophy and psychology. We might touch on that today, we'll see. So junior school and high school is the wisdom week. That's basically the whole approach of backing off, mind your own business, and leave sentient beings alone, please. Keep out of their life. Back off, don't harm them. The middle level here is back off and don't harm others. So even the consequence of this will be amazing. Your life will be blissful. That means you'd never harm anybody with your speech or your body. The immediate beneficiary of this is you. But guess what? Everyone will adore you. And as I'm the example, puts all the rats and roaches will have a party, you leave them in peace. So this first part's really huge. It's a typical view of good ethics, good morality, good discipline. You control your body, control your speech. And it sounds kind of cute, but it's got profound meaning. Look at the world and look at the suffering. What is it? Which part of us does the harm? It's the body and the speech. Of course, it all comes from the mind. You deal with that in high school. That's where you learn to meditate and become your own therapist. That's all we talked about yesterday. We just did high school yesterday. Junior school is even more fundamental. And you really can't do high school very well you can't really begin to see your own mind. You can't really begin to unpack and unravel your own neuroses. You really can't begin to learn to concentrate and be your own therapist until you control your body and speech. It's obvious. If you're so familiar with vomiting out everything you think, there's no way in the world you can sit down and calm down. There's no way in the world you can try and focus because your mind's so berserk. Why? Because you're stirring up trouble all day by vomiting out what you think and feel, and eating the cake when you feel like it, and shoving this and doing that. I mean, with uncontrolled speech and body, it's like with children, But you see, it's not just being a good person as Mummy said, which is how we think of it. It's not just suppressing what you want to think. It's a profound practice, actually. Disciplining your body and speech. It's like the activity of a grown-up, It's quite profound, actually, although it's not so simple. I always use a simple example later. I've got 6 siblings, and when we were little, we were very poor, and my mother sent us to the top Catholic convent. I think she probably still owes the bills. I mean, she's dead and gone, I'm sure she still owes the bills. We were always so poor, she couldn't ever pay the bills. We didn't even have enough beds. She had too many babies too quickly. We had to rotate sharing beds. It was the most chaotic household. It was a complete mess. We used to write all over the walls. She was a hopeless housekeeper. She was a musician and had to teach full-time music because my father was a bit of an old hippie and spent all his time playing snooker and playing pool in this club, drinking and everything. He was a good man, but a bit hopeless. So she had to run the family. He was a journalist and a printer. We had a printing company, and she had to sort of end up running the family business as well as teaching music, as well as running the set of the family, which is a bit of a disastrous housekeeper. So the house was a total mess the whole time. And because we had an outside toilet, we had to have our potty to pee in, and we'd tip it over, and everything was just stinky, and I'm not that bad all the time. But I remember our house was always a mess, and we were always so ashamed. She sent us to the best Catholic convent, all the posh girls, and we were always so ashamed when we go to school, these posh girls. And I go to these posh girls' houses, and I think I was in a hospital, because they were so clean, I couldn't believe it. It was depressing. I wanted to go up to our messy house, And they were kind of quiet and peaceful and super clean. I'd never seen anything like it. I was so shocked. And also I remember 40 years later, one of our school reunions, one of the girls said, "Oh, Rabina, we used to love going to your house. You were so bohemian." We just thought we were dirty. We were bohemian. I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, what was I telling you about our chaotic family for? Yeah, uncontrolled. So we were berserk, 7 little children. And this is my point yesterday about conditions. It's a miracle. This is what I found myself. This blew my mind, actually. It was chaos. So I was chaos. I was violent. I was abusive. I was a complete bully. 2 of my sisters were asthmatic. We had an intense family. My father was a bit naughty. There was just fights all the time, dramas, and there's so much intense emotion. I mean, we understand. And we're always together. The 7 kids were always together, So I felt all my life I was fighting for space. And I was, but I expressed it aggressively against everybody else. So 2 of my sisters were asthmatic, and when we had to rotate sleeping together, I'd practically suffocate them with a pillow. I couldn't stand the noise. I'd go crazy, So of course it was uncontrolled. Of course it was mean of me. But my poor mother and father never noticed. But perhaps we should give them some space, I mean, my Mexican gangster friends in California, in their intensive prisons, 8-foot by 10-foot cells, where they live 23 hours a day, they kill each other regularly. So don't be surprised that people harm each other in families. It's too intense. We don't notice this. Then we keep thinking, what's wrong with that child? God knows I would have been on every drug that they had when I was little. I would have been called autistic, bipolar, manic depressive, and everything else. ADD, and ADD, I would have been everything. Thank God they didn't have all the psychiatrists back then. I was just called naughty. You understand? But then what I said to you, it's a miracle. Change the conditions. My mother sent me to boarding school when I was 13. Overnight, it was miraculous. Overnight, I changed completely. Why? Because suddenly the condition changed that brought out new parts of me. I love the discipline. I love going to Mass. I went to Mass 7 mornings a week. I memorised things. I passed my exams for the first time. I behaved beautifully because I was in heaven in that environment. It brought out the best of me. So I think this is almost miraculous, but we don't notice this. We keep thinking, what's wrong with the child? I mean, it's insane when you think about it. Conditions can be everything. So one of the things I'm saying here is conditions everywhere, and I'm going to speak to the business of good behaviour. That was one example. Straight away. So everybody would, what's wrong with Serena? Take her this, do this, she has to be quiet. So I would have murdered people. But give me a new condition, suddenly sanity. Suddenly sanity. So the other example is this, about speech and conditions and behaviour. We all fought like cats and dogs, naturally. Very close family, but very, my mother had babies in 9 years, so intensely close. So here we are all now old, we're all old. But over the last many years, all my sisters, as I said to you, all good human beings. My brother too. Everybody's done well with their life, got good qualities and access to their good qualities. Each of them using methods to help them work on their minds and become good human beings. Everyone, I'm really delighted, every one of them. So what happened? We got older, had our own lives. We'd meet again for Christmas and we'd all fight again. Of course you do. That's what families do. And then the pain that you carry around. And then when I talk to Polly, I complain about Janet. And when I talk to Judy, I complain about Tony. When I talk to Mary, I complain about somebody else. That's what families do. We all know this. We vomit everything out with our mouths, And that builds up pain. And then schisms come, divisions. It's heartbreaking. Well, over the last maybe 20 years, I'd say, maybe more, somehow between all of us there's this unspoken agreement that we do not say bad things about each other, to each other, behind our backs. We just don't do it. And we don't talk about things when we're together that we know we disagree with. We're all very volatile people, got very clear, we've got views of what we think, well, therefore we don't fight. So the harmony between us is so sweet. There's no bad feelings, we forgive each other easily, and I really think we've had to work on it. That's just because we've controlled our speech. Just speech. Who thinks speech is bad? You don't get sent to prison for speech. We don't think speech is a big deal. We think we're allowed to say what we like. We don't even think of it as harmful. But it's, of course, unbelievable suffering between us. So this to me is an amazing example. You control your speech. Not only you, but everybody else benefits. But even just think for yourself. We can't wait to get home from work to moan and complain about our colleagues at work to our husband. We can't wait to moan about the husband to our best friend. I mean, we never stop doing it. And we just think it's normal. We just think it's okay. And we're not even noticing the harm we're doing to ourselves. It's obvious if we understand that negative speech, harmful speech, abusive speech, gossiping speech is coming from my own unhappy mind, my own attachment, my own anger, my own jealousy, my own hurt. We vomit it out to whoever's there. Forget what you're doing to others. Forget the disharmony we're causing. What in the name of God do you think you're doing to yourself? You're stirring it up every single day. And then you wonder why you can't meditate, you wonder why you can't control your mind, you wonder why you get depressed, you wonder why you can't sleep. We don't even notice, we don't even join the dots, Now this doesn't mean suppress. The trouble is in our world we only have two options. We vomit everything out or we live in denial, we suppress. Suppress is not the option. That's not the option. The person who suppresses everything, they need to learn to speak. They need to learn to express so they can hear themselves what the hell they're thinking. That's clear. So the thing is, at the very first level of practice in Buddhism, he just sounds like Jesus, or he sounds like his grandmother. Don't lie, don't kill, don't this, don't that. But not like that. Not because he says so, which is how we hear it. We hear it as morality. We hear it as somebody telling me what to do. It's not like that. As I said before, it's like he's more like a doctor, giving advice. When your doctor says don't smoke, you don't get insulted. Who do you think you are telling me what to do? We thank them for their kind advice. That's the approach the Buddha has. That's the relationship a person has with the Buddha. It's like an advisor. He's like a creator. There's no concept like that. It's a very different attitude. And the key reason first isn't to not kill because it harms another. It does harm another. That's what defines it as negative. But the very first reason he suggests we don't kill, don't lie, don't badmouth, is for my sake. This takes time to see. When we can get this, nobody in their right mind would ever dare to do something that would harm others because it's harming you. It takes time to think. Because we're so used to the moralistic view that if no one saw me do it, I got away with it. We really believe that. It's nonsense. You don't get away with smoking. I don't care who sees you smoke. It's going to harm your lungs or it won't. It's nothing to do with being seen by anybody. It's a natural law. The same. This is with you. Negativity in the mind is a natural law the actions you do that harm others. And then the one that's more abstract to us that really is hard to hear is it leaves impressions in your mind. It programs your mind that will produce your future experiences. This is a really subtle point, which we can't truly read it in the book. We can only take it as our hypothesis, and we need to choose, if we do choose, to use it as our basis for our behaviour in life. And this is for our sake. Junior school's got nothing to do with anybody else yet. It's all to do with our sake. It's like having compassion for ourselves. This is already huge. This wisdom week, massive. So the consequence of this, even with some development in controlling your body and speech, and that means what? Not eating every cake because you see it there. It means controlling. Not because someone says you should, not because you're naughty, not because you're not allowed to have happiness, because it'll harm you. Because you're just like an infant following every second of attachment, which just increases your dissatisfaction. We've got to think about that and see the logic of it, not just do it because you feel like you're a guilty girl. We've got to be accountable for it and see ourselves, understand the logic of it. So that in the Buddhist teachings, it goes into great depth again, the analysis of a negative action, a positive action, a negative state of mind, a positive one, what are the characteristics. It's quite precise, you know. It's not just some vague moralistic notion. So there's various ways, as I said, we create karma, and there's many ways in which these seeds we plant in our mind ripen in the future. As I said yesterday, the four main ways are tended our karmic seed planted by beginning with the thought, leave impressions in the mind, and there are four ways they will ripen in the future, either as a type of rebirth, as a tendency in your mind, your personality traits, as an experience at the hands of others mostly, and as an environmental result. So you think of your life. Think of your life. You divide your life into these four categories. First, you're a human. That's the fruit of your incredible amount of intentional, virtuous, karmic seeds of conscious, non-harming, non-killing, non-stealing, non-lying, etc., etc., etc. That builds up this energy in the mind. So that's the cause of just getting a human body. But there's lots of human bodies on this earth. Then the next one is that we look at our experiences and the environment. That's where you live and the people you relate to, the sentient beings you have connection with. So you could see some people on this earth live in a very beautiful place, where it's very peaceful, the food is delicious, the air is very pure, the water's nice, for example, that's environmental karma. So you can see some other environments are disgusting. Even just, around the corner somewhere, you walk into some person's house, maybe in the best suburb, but it's like a pigsty. Cat shit everywhere, stinky, mouldy, revolting. That's environmental karma, very personal environmental karma to that person. Or you live in a country, or a whole place. It's disgusting, dirty, polluted. We see lots of those places on this earth. Environmental karma, generally speaking. It's not just meaning the sun and the moon, but the very physical world you occupy, including the people who live in it. So you can live in some places like war zones, where lots of people dying, and lots of sickness. That's environmental karma of yours, if you have that environment. In other words, what is your karma? And this really does take time to think, because we've got two options on this earth. It's God's law, and we don't know God's law, and it's not our job to know God's law. Mind your own business and have faith in God. And again, I'm not criticising that. That's an amazing view. Or it's natural laws, which we're calling science. We haven't even begun really scientifically to really understand why war, why suffering, why this, why that. We have no idea yet, but we say we're still looking, which is fantastic. Well, then there's Buddha's view, it's another one. But this is a view of karma, very different. Insanely different. But every single sentient being is experiencing the fruits of their own past actions. We do it individually and we do it collectively. So one person can live in a beautiful environment where the food and the water is delicious in their body, but they've got an allergy to peanuts and they'll die if they eat a peanut. We know more and more of that one. That's like personal environmental karma, the fruit of killing. But the rest of your environmental karma, everything else is delicious, that's the fruit of non-killing. I mean, there's billions of karmas ripening. Basically, every sentient being, every second, is experiencing the fruits of their own past actions. It's not a random event. And this is the emptiness one we discussed last night. Everything out there is the fruit of what you've done. It's not something to be plonked into unfairly by somebody else, either good luck or bad luck. That's how we think about it. There's no accident. It's not random. If there's a natural law, we know the results can't be random. If botany is a natural law, are there that grew without a seed. It's impossible. There has to be a seed planted, we know that. It's natural. Paul says that about, it's like our life is our garden. And whatever you experience, whatever anyone does to you, anything that's good, anything that's bad, whatever you feel, whatever you experience, is the fruit of your actions, by definition. It's a shocking concept, quite different from how we think. And that's why we can be in control of it. We're the boss. We created it. Every ant, every dog, the same. So then we think, Buddha says don't kill. Well, the good question should be, well, why not? Don't just accept it. Don't believe it. Don't do what he says just because he said it. That's mindless. Why not, you should say? Well, let's analyze it. So he talks about negative actions and positive actions. Negative states of mind, positive states of mind. So a negative action is a complete act, they call it a complete action. Is one that's done with your body or your speech to another sentient being, and that's motivated by, that's informed by, that's impelled by a negative state of mind. So a simple example would be, I use this example like a mouse in my kitchen. So in order for that action, my action of killing that mouse, to be labelled a negative action, from my point of view, meaning, okay, it's a negative action in general, because why? Check the mouse, it doesn't want to be killed, thank you very much, I'm good enough. We can deduce this. But from my point of view, this is the difference. What makes my action a negative action, meaning what makes my action of killing the mouse so a negative seed in my mind that will be a seed that, unless I pull it out, that will ripen in the future as suffering results for me. Equally, a virtuous action, exactly the same. So a virtuous action, in general, a positive action is one that benefits another. But it is a virtuous action for me based upon the positive state of mind compelling me to do it. So I'll give a simple example, like the one of killing a mouse. Or not killing a mouse. Okay. For it to be a complete action of non-killing, which just sounds passive, but it has to be intentional. So the first part is there's got to be a living mouse there. The second part is the engagement of my mind in this action. And there's three parts to that one. The first part has to be a particular state of mind called recognition or discrimination that's happening every millisecond in our mind. It's a particular thing that occurs in the mind every second. It's the ability to distinguish between this and that, and we have to have this every millisecond. If you don't have this, you're a bad person. Meaning there's a clock and there's an iPad and there's a corner. It's happening a million times a second. An ability to distinguish between this and that. If we didn't have this, we'd be crazy, completely crazy. And this is a crucial one in terms of practice, because we need to apply it to our own mind. We can help us discriminate what is a positive, what is a negative state of mind, etc. So here there has to be the first part of the second point. The first point is there has to be a living mouse. The second point is the engagement of my mind in it, and there are three parts. The first part has to be the recognition, it is that mouse. The second part has to be the bare bones intention, I will kill that mouse. And the third one is the most important. They call it motivation. We call it the reason you're going to kill. So there's the recognition, that's the mouse. There's the intention, I will kill that mouse. And then there's the reason I'm going to kill the mouse, as we call it, or the motivation. And obviously the typical motivation for killing a mouse in your kitchen is disgust, aversion, anger. How dare that mouse be in my kitchen? Right? Isn't it typical? It's a reasonable one. There's the three parts of the second part, which is my mind engaging in it, and this is the crucial piece. The third one is I do the action. The fourth one is dead mouse. Great, the mouse is dead. That's a complete action of killing. Well, a complete action of non-killing is exactly the same. There has to be the mouse. Then there's my mind engaging in it. And the first is recognition. I will save that mouse. I will not kill that mouse. Then there's the second one, the strong intention, I will not kill. The third one is the motivation, compassion. The fourth one is you pick up the mouse and save it and throw it outside instead of stomping on it. And the fourth is, happy little mouse, thank you, Rebecca, and it runs away. Complete action of non-killing. Do you understand? Pretty reasonable. Now let's look at an example. Let's say Oscar has a mouse in his kitchen. But he doesn't even see it. Right? Very possible. The first one is there's a living mouse there. The second one is his mind, the recognition that is the mouse I will kill. No, he doesn't see it, so he can't have that. The second one, intention, I will kill that mouse. No, because he doesn't see it. The third one, a motivation. No, he doesn't see it. So his mind is literally not existing in that action. The third point is the foot, it stands on the mouse. And the fourth point, the dead mouse. But you can't say he created any karma, because karma is done by the mind. It starts with the mind. There's a dead mouse, but you didn't even know he killed it. No awareness. And millions of our actions are like this. There can't be karma. It is impossible. Karma is done by the mind. Karma begins in the mind. It begins with a thought, I will. But let's say Hannah has a mouse in her kitchen. 4 points, living mouse, recognition, second part, first part and second, recognition that is the mouse I will kill. Second part, I will kill that mouse. Motivation, compassion. This is called euthanasia. We do it all the time. Our grandma, the mice, you know. Poor vets spend all their time killing animals these days. Third one, she kills the mouse. Fourth one, the mouse is dead and she's happy. That looks identical, doesn't it, to my action? It looks completely identical. No one can tell the difference and we didn't speak. All the components are the same except for one piece. Motivation. Hers is the genuine wish to help the mouse, isn't it? Compassion. And mine is the genuine wish to harm it. So when we get down to all of these pieces, that is the one component, that is the key component, that determines the character of the action she creates. We're not discussing the mouse here. The mouse suffers. It died. And the mouse has got its own karma and will take a happy rebirth or a suffering rebirth, most likely another suffering rebirth. In my case, exactly the same. This is the karma that we create. So for that one piece different, compassion, she really wanted to help the mouse. Now whether she did help the mouse, that's another whole discussion. And we never asked that question in the West because we're so convinced because the mouse is dead, it's now not suffering. Buddha has a different view. Buddha says that mouse will carry on and take another rebirth. And he says, you know, you've got to ask yourself the question, well, did it get a good rebirth? Because that's the real result. And if you're not certain about that, then back off and leave the mouse alone, please, and then we so we will kill it. Don't play Russian roulette with the mouse's life. There's a whole different discussion from how we think. But nevertheless, even if the mouse went from the frying pan into the fire and took even a worse rebirth because it died freaked out, she doesn't create negative karma. She meant well. Which doesn't mean you should run around meaning well. That's why the Dalai Lama often says, compassion's not enough. You've got to have wisdom. This is a huge point. So who's got the wisdom to have the clairvoyance, to see the mind of a mouse and know with confidence that when you kill it, it'll die and run to a nice human mummy's womb and meet the Dalai Lama and have a nice practice? I don't think so. But she does have that wisdom that she's a really kind person as well as a wise one. So if not, you know, but our trouble in the West when it comes to killing creatures is we just assume if there's something you should kill them because we think it's called compassion. But there's many ways of helping sentient beings, you know. Help the mouse die peacefully, die at its own pace. Not because it's a moral instinct, not because you shouldn't or should kill, it's because you don't have the wisdom to know the consequences. That's the point behind it. It's not a question of not intervening, as we mentioned yesterday. You said. Nothing wrong with intervening, but intervening with somebody's life is based upon your own wisdom to know that you're intervening appropriately, please. I might have a terrible headache, and Hannah offers me a pill. She has got so much compassion for me, she can't stand the thought of my headache, but she's just not sure if it's a cyanide pill or not. Well, thank you very much. I wish you'd leave mind your own business and let me have my headache, and don't play Russian roulette with my life. So it's not enough to have compassion, you've got to have wisdom. And this is the meaning of this big picture of wisdom and compassion. See, the point is, I'm going to go back to the mouse a bit more and talk about his action as well, mine. But the general point of the wisdom and the compassion wing is that the Buddha's view is the more we are caught up within all these voices of ego, attachment and fear and jealousy and anger and our compassion pollution delusion, by our attachment to all this drama. As long as we're caught up in all this drama and aren't very conscious of what the hell is going on in our own head, then we're as thick as posts. We are not only making a mess of our own life, but we're intervening in other people's lives in a really mistaken way all the time, because we're not seeing people and their scenarios clearly. That's what wisdom is. The more attachment you have for your child, the more confused you are in how to help them. The more attached you are for your child, the more polluted your love and compassion are, because you can't even tell the difference. It's sort of obvious. The more attachment and neurosis you have, we can't even see out past our own nose. So we make a mess of our lives because of that stuff. So the wisdom is a practical thing that you begin to cultivate as and when you lessen your neuroses. So there are two consequences to that. You become more content, and guess what? You see others more clearly and can therefore make wise decisions about how to help them. This is really important. So the karma we create like 1 million times a day. Every millisecond your mind is working. We're doing many complete actions and many incomplete, it's quite subtle, quite intricate. One has to learn it in depth as one continues to practice and study, And then as you get more and more profound in your mind, you develop more and more power to see your own mind and to see into the past and the future and understand your karma, This is what Buddha was saying. So because your life is like your garden, and every millisecond you think and do and say something, you're sowing seeds in your mind, which will ripen as your future, then when we really have that sense of responsibility, it's a huge one. You'll really be alert. We'll only want to plant the right seeds, and we'll only want to not plant the wrong seeds. Not because someone says, not because you're being a good girl, because you are taking care of yourself and have some self-respect. But this view takes time to hear it more and listen to. So the key point about karma, that's what I'm saying, and especially as we get to the compassion week, which I want to talk about today. The motivation, the reason behind what you do is the key factor. The key factor. We can cultivate positive motivation. We'll discuss this more. Are we communicating? This makes sense for us? Yes. So all of this, of course, implies an incredible awareness of what's going on in your mind. It implies a whole new level of discipline and clarity. Like we understand this approach though. If you are, an acupuncturist, if you're not an acupuncturist, you haven't got a clue. You see someone sick, but the best you do is just they're sick. But if you're an acupuncturist, for example, you have intricate knowledge. All your knowledge informs your capacity to identify exactly what's going on. If you know botany, when I look outside, I see a bunch of growing things. I can recognise maybe a palm tree as opposed to a rose. But I look more deeply and I see herbs and weeds all tangled together. I wouldn't have a clue. It's the same thing. You can have a magnificent garden. You can be very mindful of it and learn to look at it every day. Exactly even replicate it in a drawing. But if you can't identify what's there, you're in big trouble. You've got to have wisdom. You've got to imbue your capacity to see things with intelligence. So a sick person just looks sick. But you're imbuing your capacity to see that person with your wisdom called acupuncture, or your wisdom called whatever. Well, that's the wisdom we're going to have to look at our mind. It becomes this rich knowledge that we'll cultivate that can help us interpret what's going on. And then, of course, we have this ability to interpret other people. It's obvious, Start with yourself. Any questions for it? Yes.
How do you pluck the seed? How do you pluck the seed?
Mike.
Thank you.
How do you pluck the seed?
What's it?
How do you pluck the seed?
The negative seeds.
The negative seeds. How do you pluck the negative seeds?
So I think by doing what you do is 1 million times a day. Every millisecond we do things. Most of what we do is automatic, isn't it? Would you agree with on autopilot much of the time, isn't it? And so this is why at the very deeper level, once we start to look at this, Buddha says most of what we do is propelled by our attachment. We have this body. We know how sensitive our body is. We know every millisecond we're instinctively craving comfort. Would you agree? So the second it's uncomfortable, we change the situation. It's the second that doesn't taste nice, we eat a nice thing. The second something's too loud, we try to get away. You recognize that. So that's the most basic level. We're completely programmed in this, and Buddha would say from countless lives of doing this. That's why we pop out of the womb. It's already so instinctive with so many activities. Wouldn't you agree? And then we learn new things. So all of this, if we start to get this familiarity with our minds at this deeper level, there's this highly complex process going on all day. Almost every millisecond we're sowing seeds. It's constantly sowing seeds. So that's why we have to unpack it and look at it objectively and analyse our ordinary action of eating. What motivates our ordinary action of eating? It's not compassion. Would you agree? It's not compassion, is it? And nobody, it's like, the trouble is with this, it sounds like it's heavy. But the Buddha's view of what's negative goes to much more subtle levels. That's why it's so important not to hear it in a moralistic way, but hear it as a practical way, you know? So most of what we do, eating, sleeping, going to the toilet, and doing this, doing that, moving the body, going here, going home, everything we mostly do, all the choices we make in our daily lives, mostly are based upon what we like, which is perfectly how the world is. But when we see it, it's when it's an erotic attachment. That's why we make lots of choices. The more attached you are to a certain food, you're narrowing your options way down, because it's not likely you're going to get the perfect taste every time. So every time you get the wrong taste, what happens? Your attachment gets upset, and then you get annoyed, irritated, upset, frustrated. The more look at this with temperatures. When I was a kid, I've never heard of AC. I've never heard of central heating. We froze in the winter and got hot in the summer, you know. You can't accept it. The car, when we were children, we had this great big 1938 Hudson Terraplane, this gigantic big car, American one, like a boat, for the 80s and the dog, you know. You froze and you all scream together, and that's the thing as a seatbelt, you can jump on top of each other, and it's cold in the winter and hot in the summer. You just live this way, you don't have a mental breakdown, you know. But nowadays, see, when it doesn't work, you almost have to go to the doctor, get a pill to calm down. You understand my point? I'm sure in Miami, the second it gets a bit hot, even now in winter, my AC is on the whole time, I promise. I would have been blissed out another time, how wonderful the weather is, but now it gets a bit sticky, I stick the AC on, close the door. So, first of all, aren't we fortunate that we have so much access to so many amazing things? And the Buddha's view, that's the fruit of our past virtue. Every millisecond that you have access to anything, that's the fruit of generosity. So remember I said about karma before, the cause of getting a human body is semi-morality, non-killing mostly. But look at lots of human bodies living in places where they've got to work 18 hours a day for a bowl of rice, right? Well, we don't have to. So we've got brilliant karma called, it's the karma of experiences similar to the cause. And the cause in this case is generosity. Generosity karma in the past and non-stealing, an accumulation of that energy is what ripens for us to be born in a family, in a place with money in the bank, get a job, get credit, get delicious food, get whatever you want. So it's the result of incredible virtue. Don't dismiss it. But the tragedy is, the other track of karma, when we've got butterloads of attachment, we then become like craving junkies to get all the perfect things, and when we don't get them, we have a mental breakdown. So what I'm saying is we're creating karma every second, and it's driven for most of us, unspoken, normal, ordinary life, driven by attachment. And the key, and the proof of that is when you get upset when you don't get the thing. Do you see my point? So we're creating karmas all the time, and the key thing that causes the karma to be a karma is the thought. So we do things, like I said about the mouse, we're doing many actions every day, and we don't intend to do it. There's no karma, there can't be. So that doesn't mean you get away with it and walk around drunk and kill sentient beings all the time you didn't mean to. It's not like that. Not saying that. It's extremely intricate. But whenever there's an intention and then a motivation and then you act it out, there's lots of actions like that. I'll sit there, I'm hungry, I'm craving food, there's an intention, I'll get some cake. That causes me to stand up, go to the fridge, get the cake, and then put it in the mouth. That's a complete action of eating. You understand? So we're doing that all the time. That's why we have to learn to really unpack this stuff and start to analyze, and then make changes. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Yes. Back there. Yes, sweetheart. Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to formulate the question for like the before we...
Now she's got to bravely state it. Let's see what happens.
It's not going to come out. You have to just be patient with it.
I will do my best to be patient with you.
The question that I struggle with is, you know, it's like, and you touched on this yesterday about like views, and you know, I saw you touching on throughout. Like, when do we get to issues that are collective conscience, right?
I'm really losing your words a bit.
When we get to issues like collective conscience, like racism, for example, or Trump coming to...
Okay, good.
How, when you look at things from a big perspective, and you see something it's not right that, you know, we have much more jails than museums, that we have a disproportional part of the population in jails and another one. How do you explain, you know, how do we handle this?
Okay, I understand.
As the person looking from the outside, not oppressed,
yes,
the oppressed.
I understand exactly. I understand. Okay. Well, first of all, it's another example, but I'm using a good one, because we always use the bad ones for karma, but the good ones also are the fruit of karma. So would you agree in general, in Miami, mostly in Miami, it's a good place to be born. In general. Not for everybody, never, nothing is ever for everybody, but in general, if you compare Miami to, say, one city in Syria right now, I would suggest if you're looking for a house and a bit of decent real estate, you wouldn't choose Syria, you would choose Miami. From a practical point of view, there's more opportunities, you can go to school, reasonable sanity, people aren't running around with machine guns, indeed in some areas there might be, but in general there's more options. You could say that's not collective consciousness, that's the fruit of karma of all the individuals, but you're experiencing it collectively. This particular thing of having access to good schools, decent money, decent jobs, lots of opportunities, good food, good taste, good air, good water, would you agree with that in general? So the same with everything. So then in general you'd say another thing about this country, and would be this country, that in general, the things you just said, you know, prisons. I mean, there's, you know, the United States has 5% of the world population, but 25% of the prison population. A quarter of all humans on earth who live in prison. If you want to go to prison, come and live in the United States, okay? There's opportunity. There's opportunity. It's only a quarter. So those things are also. Now the point is this, from your point of view, looking on, it's pretty abstract. It doesn't touch your life. None of it affects you. If you've never read the papers, you'd never know about that, would you? So in that sense, it's really not your karma. You could argue that. It's not, karma is only when it affects you, but it's not affecting you. In one sense, it's not affecting you. If you didn't read the papers, you wouldn't know about it. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
First of all, that. So then, but if it does affect you, that means therefore it's the fruit of your personal karma that your kid's in prison, that you go to prison. So we look at the bigger pictures. We're all very intelligent and give all these political analyses, you know. But you're living in some little town, and you never read papers because you don't know how to read. You don't know about all this drama. You just know that your kid's in prison and it's miserable. So there's all this, a lot of intellectual knowledge we have that sometimes doesn't impact on our lives at all. So personally, in one sense, say that.
So that's the question that I'm struggling with, you know, when you overanalyze.
So what's the question then, exactly in relation to this?
When you intellectually overanalyze everything and you suffer because you're looking
okay, that's another. Okay, okay. Now, so
selfish?
you're talking about compassion now. This is compassion. This is the one of compassion. Okay. First of all, is to understand if you're a Buddhist and trying to use karma as your explanation. The first thing to think about is what's the cause of this. Everything we look at in our world, we're always asking what caused this. And the more we do know, the more analysis we do have, and the more political stuff we do have, we always say, well, especially with bad stuff, why is this happening? That's our big question, isn't it? But by the way, we never ask why do good things happen. This is a really important point. All the years I've ever been a Buddhist, this is really profound actually, I've never yet had a person ever talk about karma and ask, well, why do good things happen? Why does one child get born to a mother who's kind, a father who's good, and have a good mind, and good characteristics, and have money in the bank? No, nobody in all the 40 years I've been a Buddhist has ever asked me that question. And that's an interesting point, isn't it? We only ever ask about the bad things. And that says something about us, wouldn't you agree? That we are always noticing the bad. Meaning, the assumption there, I think, is we assume we all deserve good things, and so we don't bother to ask happen. And we all assume that nobody deserves bad things, so we always ask why do bad things happen. Wouldn't you think that's an interesting point? So that blows my mind, quite frankly. The Buddha's view is, there's not either of those things will never happen unless you caused it. Because we cause it both. But our assumption, well, look at our assumption. When good things happen, we never ask why. We just assume it's our right. When bad things happen, we have mental breakdowns. Is this true? This is an extra point, by the way. Are you hearing me, people? It's kind of fascinating, and that demands a little deeply at our assumptions. And that's the assumption of ego, that's extreme, and the assumption of attachment. That we're junkies for the good things, and we assume we have a right to get them, and we never bother. We don't care what the cause is. We don't care. You know, why is my mother so rich? I don't know what I did to deserve it. I understand. Like a therapist, why am I not? You understand? But why they poor? Why do bad things happen? We go mad. So the underpinning thing there is attachment and aversion. Yeah. Are you seeing my point? Because we can't. What we're really saying is, I can't stand the bad things. Not why does it happen? It's because I can't stand it. And I want the good, so give me more, babe. You understand? It's kind of interesting. So anyway, okay, that for a start. So if you have this, using the Buddha's view, if you take these 4 ways that karma ripen, like a grid, and you put it on the world, this will answer every question you have. If you take the Buddha's view, it'll answer your questions from the Buddhist perspective. So the 4 points are, if you look at the world, you can see there are 2 sentient beings. Then you can see there's a bunch of humans. Well, why are they human? Because they all practice virtue. There's one track of karma called the result of morality karma is they all got human birth. That's the first one. You with me so far? All the wackos, all the psychos, all the pedophiles, all the beautiful people, doesn't matter. They got a human life. They got the first track of karma. That's the fruit of one track. And in their case, every one of us is the fruit of virtue, having a human body. Then the next one is, now you look at their personalities, and you look at the world, there are trillions of different kinds of personalities, wouldn't you agree? And there are people who are basically putting it right down to this. All the human beings on this earth have some tendencies that are called positive, hopefully, some. Would you agree? And some have negative ones. And many have way more positive than negative, and many have way more negative than positive. Would you agree with that? That's pretty straightforward. You can look at all the human beings from that point of view, and you can see it's every one of those tendencies is the fruit of that tendency in their life from having done it before. People are good at music, people are good at football, people are good at lying, people are good at torturing. Do you understand? People liking sex, people liking food. There's a bunch of tendencies, there are a bunch of habits that we're born programmed with. Every billion, one of those 7 billion humans, the second track of karma. Are you with me so far? Now the third one and the fourth are to do with the way they are seen and treated on this earth, and that's called experiences similar to the cause, and the other one is the environmental. So, a simple example again for one person. You're born as a human, that's the fruit of non-killing. Then my friend who was crying with compassion for the lice, little boy, remember that story I told you? 3 years old. Mummy, leave them alone, don't hurt them, it's their home. We can clearly deduce this kid hasn't killed before, otherwise he's got compassion. Guess why? Hadn't done it before. The third way non-killing would ripen, and look at the world, many of us live to a long age. 60, 70, 80, 90, that's the fruit of non-killing. That's called the third one, it's called experiences similar to the cause of non-killing. So how come people live a long life, or how come people don't get killed? We can see this, lots of people don't get killed by somebody else, and lots of people live long. Would you agree? That for every one of them, that's the fruit of their non-killing. You with me? The fourth category is environmental. People who have a healthy body, like Warren Buffett, he's 86, and he eats anything he likes, and it nourishes him. You with me? So it's 4 examples, simple examples of the fruit of non-killing. One action and and those 4 sets. Do you understand? Now we can see all sentient beings are variations of these. Let's say some people have the karma to be lied to. Some people have the karma to not be believed. Some people have the karma to be believed even if they're telling a lie. When I was a little girl, I was a smarty pants and I gave an answer to a question and I lied. They all believed me. I remember thinking even then, I better be careful with my words if people believe my lies. Do you understand? So if we take this 4 and you put that on the world, you get your answer to any individual and then for groups. Because sometimes one person in a healthy, lovely place with best food in Miami might die when they eat a peanut. That's personal karma for the experience similar to the cause. Now that's environmental karma of past killing. So severe that even though they've got good karma to have, healthy body, but one particular food will destroy them. That's particular environmental karma of past killing for one person. Whereas somebody else, a group of people live in a place where the air, like in Delhi, or like Mexico City or somewhere, where the air is completely disgusting. Everybody, the 20 million people in New Delhi, all suffer the same karmic result together of past killing, because they've got the environmental result of polluted air. So the whole world, you can analyse like this. It takes time, of course, to remember it all, to think of it all. So this is the first point, to understand first why people are happy, why they suffer, why good things happen, why bad things happen. That's the karmic one. That's in the wisdom wing. He uses the nuts and bolts to help you understand why it is happening. Now the compassion wing is, what can I do about it? That's the compassion wing. But first you've got to understand the karmic one. So we're going to go that in a minute, you can be patient with that. But the understanding, so in other words, you see people who are sick, and you say, why are they sick? So I think I'll study and become a doctor. So you go away for 6 years and you study to become a doctor, and now you can say, how can I help them? Do you see? You've got to have the wisdom first. You've got to have the answers to your question, why are they sick? And that's not enough. You've got to have the wish to help. You can't just rush in and help. You've got to have wisdom, which is meaning study medicine, study acupuncture, study something. Well, the wisdom here is understanding the causes of it from the long-term point of view, because each individual being has caused their own. That's the general statement of the way karma is, the law that runs the universe. Now that doesn't mean you can't go to university and study economics. Because also you can see that we're the product of economics, we're the product of this, we're the product of lots of things that are the external. The reason in the first place a person gets born into a poor country is due to their past karma. That doesn't mean you can't come along and try and change their status and change their food and rid the air. That's how you help. But always you've got to have the understanding of the causes first, and then you come in and do what you can to help. But the other one is too, because it's the fruit of individuals' karma, you can only do so much. Because that person might have such, in other words, some kid might have such, this is the karmic view, such strong tendency, no matter what you do, you can never feed them peanuts, and you can't get to the source because it's so severe. So you always have to protect them, therefore, from peanuts. But another child, lots of people have cancer, right? Some people get cured, some people don't. Same medicine, same everything. It seems like pot luck, It's the personal karma of the individual. But we haven't got to the compassion one yet. The first one is you've got to ask why, and the Buddhist view. And then what's fascinating about the karmic one when it comes to compassion. Okay, now I'll tell you this one. Okay.